All right, like I said, yesterday we did SEC, we did Big Ten, and now we're going to hit the ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, starting with the ACC. Clemson, the Clemson Tigers favored minus 155 to win the conference. Miami, 5-1 odds. NC State plus 750. Pitt 10-1. UNC 25-1. Louisville 30-1. Those are the teams we'll preview, and then we're going to add a couple more. I have a little bit to say about a few others. Let's begin with the Clemson Tigers. Dabo Swinney, 10.5 is their over-under. He was 6-2 in conference, which is terrible for him last year. They were last in yards per play by offense, first in yards per play allowed by defense. Lots of 17-14 fourth quarter games. They were miserable to watch. They were miserable to have any money line parlay, even though they won 6 straight to end the season. They're going to have new coordinators on offense. Brandon Streeter. Defense, Wes Goodwin, Tony Elliott, and Brent Venables went on to become head coaches. They lose Justin Ross, the wide receiver, James Skalski, the linebacker, Baylor Spector, another linebacker, Andrew Booth, cornerback. So it's DJ. We got now I have to learn how to say it again. We got I knew this. What I knew it straight.
Just call him DJU, Sal. DJU. That's what DJU.
Uagalele, though. Is that what it was?
That's right.
Yeah, Uagalele versus Cade Klubnik. Uagalele, former 5-star recruit. I had him to win Heisman Trophy. I think he was like second best odds going into last year. Instead, ranked dead last in the ACC in yards per attempt and efficiency rating. Meanwhile, Klubnik, number 1 quarterback in 2022 recruiting class. He's from Westlake High School right there in Austin, that big school. They went back-to-back titles. Running backs Will Shipley, Kobe Pace combined for 13-80 and 17 touchdowns. They'll be back. No receiver on the roster had more than 500 yards. So they're going to have to fill that void. The biggest losses on defense were Skalski and Balin Spector at linebacker and Andrew Booth, as I mentioned. They do have Miles Murphy at 7 sacks last year. They do have Trenton Simpson, the linebacker, was a preseason All-American with 6 sacks. Brian Bresee is back. All ACC selection. They open against Georgia Tech in a neutral site. They'll be a double-digit favorite there. They have NC State, Miami at home, at Notre Dame Week 10. That's a fun one. Their recruiting is best in the conference, 10th overall. I don't know. I think their schedule's pretty easy. It's a nice, clean slate for Dabo, but can we trust that they're going to score enough every game? It could be the same thing as last year. So I think they lose either 0, 1, or 2. I'm going to buy into them with 2 losses, Parlay Kid. And that gets them at 10-2. NC State and Notre Dame are their losses. I'm going to go under.
I agree with you here, Sal. Has the shine worn off Clemson?
Yeah,
maybe it has. I'm not sure if this is the team that we've seen over the last decade or so. DJU was shockingly bad last year. Shockingly, right? I don't think, but because what we saw from him in some glimpses the season before, like in the Notre Dame game, we really thought that this was a guy that was going to be putting up 300 plus yards easily per game, if not closer to 400 yards per game. Now we're not sure what happened there. And now he's got this freshman stud from Texas nipping at his heels. That could be good. That could be bad. And if Clemson is forced to play a true freshman this year in Cade Klubnik, then they're not getting this. They're not going over here, Sal. It's not going to happen, especially because this ACC is not your normal ACC. It's pretty good this year, Sal. There's 5 teams, including Clemson, ranked inside the AP top 25. That's pretty good for this conference, right?
I like previewing this conference more than the ones we did yesterday because it's just, all right, it's Michigan, Ohio State, or it's Alabama or Georgia. Yeah, you got a bunch of squads that could really compete here. It's fun.
Absolutely. And the fact that they're at Wake Forest, at BC, playing Notre Dame, they're losing a couple games here. And you got to remember, they did finish with 6 straight wins last year, like you said. But Sal, 6 of their wins were by 1 touchdown or less last year. Yeah. Even their wins, they weren't this dominant team. They're 3-5 in their last 8 against ranked opponents. Right? And I just told you we have 4 opponents ranked, well, now 5 really ranked that they're playing inside the top 25. They're going to lose some games here. Let's take the under 10.5 at minus 125, Sal.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm looking at that schedule. And listen, you don't want to lean on last year. It's a different year and different players and everything. But yeah, they beat Syracuse 17-14. They beat BC 19-13, beat Georgia Tech 14-8. I knew that that DJU bet was done. First game of the year, they played Georgia. They lost 10-3. I'm like, I'm cooked. That's it. 19 for 13. So he had 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So we're both going under with Clemson. Now, Miami fired head coach Manny Diaz. Their over-under is 9. They're 5-1 to win the conference. They were 7-5 last year. They fire Manny Diaz. They hire Mario Cristobal. Oh, boy, away from Oregon. Now, I know Cristobal played offensive line with them, a 2-time national champion. What was it, the 89 and 91 years there? Whatever. So they welcome him back. We've lost a lot of money betting Cristobal, Brother Bry, right? I know this isn't your game, but yeah, I don't know if we're going to continue to do so with Miami. They won 5 of the last 6 after going 2-4 to start. They signed a top 15 recruiting class in the country. They've done this like 4 of the last 6 years. Kids still want to play for the U. And they banged on that transfer portal. They added Henry Parrish, running back for Ole Miss, Frank Ladson, wide receiver Clemson. They have an out lineman from Oregon. They lose that to Eric King, who I liked, but he got hurt. He was such a injury problem. They lose Charleston Rambo, the wide receiver. So it's going to be Tyler Van Dyke. He won the ACC Rookie of the Year as a redshirt freshman last year, 6-3 as a starter. 20 passes, 3 interceptions, last 6 starts, pretty good. Jalen Knighton's going to take carries for them. He had 11 touchdowns in the last 7 games. They replaced 2 receivers from last year. Like I said, Rambo and Harley. They had 1,700 yards. They'll have some good guys, some 4-star recruits right there. Romello Brinson, Kayshawn Smith did well last year. Defensively, their rank has fallen from 4th to 13th to 75th in the last 4 years. They do have James Williams, the number 1 safety in the 2021 class. Leonard Taylor, number 111 overall player. They're going to be back. They're good. They added an all-conference USA defensive end from UAB, Moultrie. I think they'll be 3-1 before the bye, and then they hit A&M. They end with Georgia Tech at Clemson and Pitt. I'll tell you what, I'm boring. I'm going to go exactly 9-3. I can't trust Cristobal. I don't care what his diploma says, where he went. Maybe he's excited about this, but 9-3. So over under 9, I think it's a push. Parlay Kid, what do you have?
Oh man, we're coming right back with me here, Sal. Yeah. I like what you're doing here. I really had to debate about my pick here, but I'm going to take the over, even though my biggest fear is Cristobal, because he's burned us so many times, especially you and Brother Bry.
Oh, man.
He's assembled a great staff, though, Sal. A great staff led by new defensive coordinator Kevin Steele, who has run defenses at Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and Auburn. This guy has run some of the best defenses in the country. But that's not why I'm taking the over 9 here. So I'm really taking the over because of Tyler Van Dyke and the way he played at the second half of the season last year. In his last 6 games, averaged 365 yards passing, threw 20 touchdowns to only 3 interceptions. Fantastic young quarterback. He's feeling really good about the way he played last year. I think that carries over to this year. Running back Jalen Knighton, scored 11 touchdowns in his last 7 games, so he was a force as well. Returning 13 overall starters, 7 on offense, 6 on defense. 3 out of their first 4 games are absolute gimmies. Gimmies. I have them at 10 wins. Let's take the over 9 at -105, Sal.
All right. Yeah, I got it right in there. 9 or 10. They're going to be competitive. Boy, I could say this about most conferences. I think they're like 6 or 7 good quarterbacks in this, right? I mean, not that they'd be pros, but they're going to put up pretty big numbers.
Good conference with quarterbacks.
Including NC State. Their over-under is 8.5. The over is pricey, -165. To win the conference is +750. Dave Doran finished in the top 20 for the first time in 20 years, which is weird because they do have the second most wins of any ACC program in the last 5 years. They have 39, right behind Clemson. They were 8-2 over the last 10 games, and 2 of the losses came by a combined 4 points. They have 16 returning starters, Harry, including Devin Leary, who broke NC State's single-season record, 35 touchdown passes. Only one in the country with 35 or more touchdown passes and 5 or fewer interceptions. He's a stud. Their running game was bad. It's not even really worth mentioning. I think they had 120 yards per game. Wide receivers, Othair Thomas, Devin Carter, over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns. They returned 10 of 11 starters from the number 2 scoring defense in the ACC. Drake Thomas, 6 sacks. Peyton Wilson, tackles leader in the ACC. They're going to have to replace a couple of the pressure generators from last year. Didn't do a great job recruiting, 10th in the conference, 64 in the country, but I really don't think they had to. I think they're going to be 4-0 before they play Clemson. They have Texas Tech. The tough ones, though, are Clemson and at UNC. I'm going over here, Harry. I think they can go 10-2. I think 8.5. I think they go over 8.5 easily.
I do too, Sal. This offense is loaded. I mean, you mentioned Devin Leary with the 35 touchdowns last year in his yards. Broke all of Phillip Rivers' records at NC State, and that's really saying something. They don't have to play Miami on the schedule this year. You mentioned won 8 of the last 10 to close the season out. By the 2 games were just by a total of 4 points. You mentioned Drake Thomas on linebacker, 99 tackles. Peyton Wilson, another linebacker, 108 tackles last year. And the top 3 receivers are returning. They combined for 2,000 yards, 20 touchdowns last year. This offense of NC State's going to be dynamite. I love the over 8.5.
Yeah, might be my favorite here. I don't know what we're going to do with this. I'm going to lose a lot. I wish it wasn't minus 165, though. Give me a 9. I'll go over 9. There you go. Pitt, 11-3 last year. What do you have to say about them? Over under 7.5 for a team that was 11-3. It's 10-1 to win the conference. Pat Narduzzi's team, 8-1 in conference. They were the real surprise. They returned 14 of 22 starters from last year, including 7 All-ACC selections. The problem is Kenny Pickett isn't one of them, right? And Jordan Addison, who had 17 touchdowns, Biletnikoff winner, transferred to USC. He's not one of them either. So speaking of USC, they get Keaton Slovis. It's so crazy keeping track of this transfer portal. It really is. Somehow he was former first-team All Pac-12, went 16-10, had the most passing yards in the Pac-12, over 7,500 in 3 years. I don't know. He takes a lot of shit out here, but put the numbers up. Israel Abednakonda and Vincent Davis combined for 1,500 scrimmage yards, 13 touchdowns. They return all 5 starters on the offensive line. They return 8 defensive starters. They had the most sacks in FBS since 2019, 150-plus sacks in 3 years. So it's pretty good. Khalija Kancey, first team All ACC selection, 7 sacks. They got a bunch of studs there. Tennessee, at Louisville, at USC, at Miami. Those are the tough ones. 3 of those are really tough. I just think they caught lightning in a bottle last year with Kenny Pickett. I'm not sure they're going to repeat. I think, a team from 11 to 7.5, I'm going to go under. I think they're trying to bait us here. I think they're 7-5. Harry, what do you think?
I do too, Sal, and I like the plus 160 you're getting on that too. You mentioned a little bit of their schedule. They got to play West Virginia. They got to play Tennessee, and I talked about how great I think Tennessee's going to be this year. They lost their offensive coordinator to Nebraska. I also mentioned Mark Whipple last year. They were 3rd in the NCAAs in offense overall last year. So, again, no Pickett. It's going to change. No Addison. He was tremendous for them at the end of the season. And you mentioned Slovis. He was actually benched at the end of the season for USC. Yeah. And he's born and raised in Scottsdale, played in LA at USC. What's going to happen when come end of October, November? Is he going to be able to deal with a cold in Pittsburgh? I don't think so. Again, Sal, you said it. I think lightning in a bottle last year. That was first time Pittsburgh been really decent in a long time. And I think it's a one hit wonder. And I'm going under 7.5 too. Yeah.
It's tough with some of these teams. They're close. All right, let's go UNC. I want to finally hear from Brother Bry here. 6-7 last year. They're over under 6.5. They're 25-1 odds to win the conference, to win the ACC. Mac Brown's team, they entered, I think they were top 10. They were ranked number 10 the preseason poll. And then they went 2-2, and they never saw the polls again. They were out. They need to replace leaders on both offense, Sam Howell, all-time leading passer, and defense, Jeremiah Gemmel and Tomlin Fox, both all ACC season. So the quarterback battles between Drake May, who's the son of UNC quarterback Mark May and brother of Luke May, basketball standout, and Jacoby Criswell is a 4-star from the 2020 class, had 25 career pass attempts. Running back between Ty Chandler and Sam Howell, they have to replace almost 2,000 yards rushing. That's a lot. They're going to have Brooks, he had 7 yards a carry. George Pettaway. They have some viable options. They have Josh Downs, first team All ACC wide receiver, led with 101 receptions, 1335. But not really a lot of depth at wide receiver. The defense has 8 starters returning, but it wasn't any good. It was third worst scoring defense in the ACC. Recruiting is second best in the conference, 11th best in the nation. I think they're going to be 3-0 before Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Miami. They have Pitt, and then they end with NC State, who should be considerably better than them. I just, Mac Brown's team loses games they're supposed to win. There'll be probably a loss at Virginia or at Duke or at Wake Forest. Sorry, Tate Frazier. I'm going under 6.5. Bri, you're
I agree.
Double cross Tate Frazier too.
I agree. Yeah, sorry, Tate. Sorry about that. But yeah, under 6.5, you get the plus 135 here. And UNC, they killed me last year. I listened to Tate's advice. He said last year was the year they were going to be good. They just killed me all year. Maybe some of that was they were looking maybe for Sam Howell to do too much, but their offensive line play was terrible last year. It really was a roller coaster season, a lot of close games. And, I used to think Mac Brown was a pretty good coach, at least I know he had some success, but, maybe not. He's definitely a great recruiter. They do have if you look at the recruiting classes, they always have kind of top recruiting classes. Now, I agree with you. They likely start off 3-0, but it's possible. It's possible they could struggle at App State. We've seen that in the past, right? We've seen teams go, they go to App State, right?
Sure.
So that they could struggle there. Then you get, they're not being Notre Dame. You get Miami, Pitt, Wake, NC State. And like I was saying, so last year, offensive line play was really bad. They have to replace Howell. And again, maybe they'll run the ball more like they did 2 years ago. But the problem with this team is defensively, this team has been really bad the last 2 years. They've been really bad. They give up a ton of points.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much they can improve on last season. So I do think they're going to probably be 6-6 makes sense when you look at their record. They do have other winnable games there, but I'd prefer to get the plus 135 here.
All right, so we agree there. Yeah, I wonder, so now we had to pick another team. We didn't have to pick. I don't know why we did this, but as far as teams that were ranked, we could have gone Florida State. We could have gone Louisville. The over-under wins is about the same, but the odds for the division. Anyway, the conference. Louisville, we went with 6-7. The over-under is 5.5. They're 30-1 to win this conference. It's not happening. Scott Satterfield has a losing record in back-to-back seasons for the first time in 13 years for this club. They were 0-6 in games decided by 6 points or fewer over the last 2. They need Lamar Jackson back. It's that simple. And I don't think it's going to happen. But they do have the leaders in passing, Malik Cunningham, rushing, also Malik Cunningham, receiving, Marshawn Ford, the tight end, and sacks, Jashir Abdullah, and interceptions. They're all back. And they got the Tennessee running back, Evans, in the portal. They have Hudson from Central Arkansas. They're excited about him catching passes. They did average 29 or more points in all 3 seasons under Satterfield. They are the only ACC team to average 200 or more rushing yards in each of the last 3 seasons, yards per game. I mentioned Cunningham, 4-year starter, the only active FBS player to account for 100 career touchdowns. He has 24 interceptions. They have offensive linemen, most of them coming back defensively. The news isn't as good. They're ranked in the bottom half of the ACC in scoring for the last 5 seasons. They do have Yasir Abdullah. He had 10 sacks. He's an all-ACC guy. Monty Montgomery, he missed with a torn ACL, but he had 10 sacks in 19 and 20. They play Pitt. They're at Kentucky. They're at Clemson. They start at Syracuse, at UCF, and home against FSU. I don't know. I see it, Parlay Kid, as either 5-7 or 6-6, and I think that's how the odds makers see it at 5.5. I'll say 5-7. I don't like their schedule or that they can't close games out no matter who's on the field. I'm going under 5.5.
Yes, I like it here too because the under 5.5 is at plus 155. So you're getting a really good number with it right now. There is some buzz surrounding this Louisville team thanks to their quarterback, Malik Cunningham. Right. Some would consider him, Lamar Jackson-ish in a way, in a small way. I think if you do like Louisville to have a good season, and some people do, you might want to take a look at the odds for Heisman surrounding Cunningham, somewhere at 60-1 in that range. Because if they have a really good year and they're approaching 9 or 10 wins, it's going to be all thanks to Malik Cunningham. So if you believe that, if you think we're wrong here, or you want to hedge a little bit here, Cunningham for Heisman, might be the way to go. But this is a team that was 10-14 in the last 2 years, Sal, right? With a lot of the same players returning to what is really pedestrian numbers on both sides of the ball in terms of right in the middle of the pack offensively, right in the middle, 7th rated offense, 8th rated defense in the conference last year. They finished 3-6 of the last 9. And then this year they finished at Clemson, home versus NC State, at Kentucky, who blew them out last year in a rivalry game. I don't think they win any of those last 3 games. So I'm taking the under with the nice plus 155 here.
Yeah, I like the plus number there too. Yeah, so I'm looking at these over-unders. We previewed Louisville as the there's the 5th team, 6th team in the ACC because they're 30-1. Their odds, I'm looking at some of these odds. I guess some of these other teams have weaker non-conference schedules, right? Because Virginia is 7.5, their over-under. We just previewed Louisville, whose over-under is 5.5. Virginia Tech is 6.5, right? I mean, that's all this means. Florida State and BC, 6.5. So they must just have weaker non-conference schedules, but their odds are longer to win the conference, right, Bri? Am I looking at that right? That's got to be what it is. Yeah. Now, Harry, I haven't heard you say anything about Syracuse. I mean, I was just gonna mention. I was gonna ask Parlay Kid. I was gonna ask Parlay Kid if he's proud of me. I didn't mention Syracuse one bit this year. What's their number? What's their number?
Bri, isn't it 7.5?
No,
it can't be.
No,
it can't be.
Right.
It's probably I'm going to say it's 4.5. I'm trying to get a quick number on it right now. I don't know if anybody can beat me to it.
That's what I would say. I would say 4.5 is right. Hold on a second.
You know what? Where I'm looking right now, I don't even see a number on them.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think I tried to find them. I mean, they're so miserable, Harry, that they wouldn't even put a number on them here.
Well, they have a few. There's UConn, there's Wagner on the schedule, so those are 2. They don't even. Looking at their schedule, though, it's probably
they didn't blow out Wagner last year, but
I would say it's probably 4 or 3. I don't know.
I don't even see them. They're not even listed amongst the ACC conference winners. And you could get Duke. You could get Duke at like 1,000-1 right now to win, and Syracuse is not even listed. For some reason.
So are they still in the ACC? Did they get kicked out? Maybe we don't know.
4.5. It's 4.5.
It is 4.5? All right.
Yep. Michael,
Make
just
the pick,
let
Harry.
us know it's 4.5.
Go ahead. Over or under? What are you doing?
Under.
I'm gonna. Well, boy,
yeah,
you said I didn't even look at. They play Wagner. They play UConn. You said, wow.
But under. I'm looking at their schedule.
They lose those shitty games. They lost to Liberty before anybody knew who Liberty was, right? I mean, I don't even know that they lost. It's always a team like that.
They go on a stretch where they still play Purdue. All right, so it's Louisville, UConn, Purdue, Virginia, Wagner, but then it's NC State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Pitt, Florida State, Wake Forest, Boston College. Under.
Oh, they're gonna lose. Oh, they're gonna go 0-7 to end the season. Maybe Boston College. I don't know. All right, so let's pick a winner. Forget about Syracuse, Harry's crap Syracuse team. I'm going NC State. Parlay Kid, I think you're Harry, you're with me. I think Doran's got this team going the right direction. Leary, solid quarterback. 10 of 11 starters on a good defense. Going to be tough to score on them. It's going to be tough for Clemson to score anyway. I think they handle Clemson in the ACC title game, plus 750. You're with me, Harry.
Yeah, and they October 1st is a showdown against Clemson this year. That's going to be a great game. They tripped up Clemson last year. And like you mentioned earlier, Clemson slipping a bit, maybe failed to win the ACC for the first time in 6 years. They had a lot of offensive issues, especially in the first half of the season last year. Meanwhile, this NC State, again, this offense is loaded, and I'm going to go with NC State to win the ACC at plus 750. Why not?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to look. How do they do the ACC with the West and East? All right, so they do have to win that game, NC State, right? Because they're both on.
Unless
both in
Clemson
the ACC
loses
Atlantic.
too. Unless Clemson loses too.
Yeah. No, I got you. But they pretty much have to win that, and then they'll have on the other side like a Miami or a Pitt or somebody like that. So that's how that works. All right, Parlay Kid. Well, we'll get to yours last. Bri, you're going middle of the pack here. Miami, they're the second favorite on the board, right?
Yeah, I'm going Miami at 5-1. Look, you know my thoughts on Cristobal, but I do think maybe he brings some stability to the program, I will say. And again, he's a great recruiter. Not that necessarily matters this year. That's great for their program going forward. But Van Dyke, like Parlay Kid was saying before, Van Dyke was really good last year, winning 5 of their last 6 games. And the reason I like this is, look, the Coastal Conference or Coastal Division is not very good. You know, they'll get Pitt. They get Pitt and UNC at home. So I think if they go 6-2 in the conference, I think they'll win the Coastal. And
they
then
win
you go,
that side, right? Yeah.
And then you'll go up against Clemson or you go up against NC State. So as long as they're going to lose, they probably lose at Clemson. Probably, I'm not sure, but I don't see them losing another 2 games. So then if they get into that title game, they're right. What are they? They're plus 150, plus 175. They're not going to be huge underdogs, but a 5-1 right now to get them, I kind of like it.
That's good value. Definitely good value. All right, but Parlay Kid, wow. Talk about value. We didn't even go over this team. Where are you coming from with this?
Well, this is no surprise to those listening to our podcast. If you're thinking Wake Forest at 30-1 to win the ACC, you're thinking smart. They finished inside the top 15 last year, Sal. They're starting this season ranked 22nd in the AP poll. They returned quarterback Sam Hartman, 50 total touchdowns last year. They returned 3 of their
benched in his bowl game.
That's just. Let's see. You just don't be bitter about it, though, Harry. And they have a stud receiver in A.T. Perry, 15 touchdowns last year, 1,300 yards. He returns along with 2 of the other top 4 receivers. So 3 of the top 4 receivers are back. 7 returning on defense. Defense wasn't great, but they did lead the ACC in takeaways. So that's something to build upon. Sal, they're going to be 3-0 heading into a home game in week 4 against Clemson. I think they beat Clemson in this game.
Wow.
And then the only other game I would be worried about for them on this schedule is a away game later in the season at NC State. This team this could be an 11-win team this year, Sal. At 30-1, jump on them to win this ACC. They are legit, and they got there's just a lot of positivity around that program last year. After last year's 11-win season. Let's do it. 30-1.
Wow. Well,
I guess it must be a little high. I almost forgot this happened right the other day. Now that Parlay Kid was mentioning him, what is the status of Hartman? Right? Is he just out for this 2 weeks, or is he out for a long period?
Well, that could throw me way off, guys. So,
no, I know. I'm wondering if that's why the odds.
I do worry about this. We mentioned 1,000 names, and that's what people are like. Yeah, well, he's hurt, so I don't know.
No, I think he's out with a non-medical issue or
it says indefinitely. That's all I'm saying is that. Yeah. So, well, you got to win
one of the last
games.
teams to lose a game last year in Division I. They were one of the very last teams.
Yeah. Well, listen, my agent, Baby Doll James Dixon, is on the board of directors there. Baby, I like what you're thinking, Parlay Kid. Happy birthday to Baby Doll. Turned 60 yesterday. Still
nice.
Still the best abs in the
Baby
business.
Doll.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Baby Doll Dixon. So he would like Parlay Kid's pick at 30-1. That's a nice little birthday gift.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go Big 12. Oklahoma plus 190. Texas 3-1. Oak State plus 550. Baylor plus 550. We'll start with the Sooners, who underwent a major facelift. Brent Venables inherits this 11-2 team from Lincoln Riley. You have to go over 8.5. You have to pay minus 180 if you like the over 8.5 wins. In the Riley era, let's take a look. 4 Big 12 titles, 3 playoff appearances, 0 playoff wins. I don't know. People see that as a positive, a negative. I don't know what you make of Lincoln Riley's tenure there, but he won the Big 12. So that's can't ask for a ton more than that, except they got crushed in the playoffs. Venables, former OU assistant, becomes head coach after 26 seasons. More notably, he won 2 national titles and 6 conference titles with Clemson. I don't know what this Oklahoma team, they're in a flood. They have 3 more years than Big 12 before they join the SEC, where they really won't win playoff games. They return only 4 starters on offense. Here's who's gone: Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, running back Kennedy Brooks, wide receiver Jaden Hasselwood, wide receiver Mario Williams, Michael Woods II. They hired the Ole Miss and UCF OC Jeff Lebby as coordinator because Dylan Gabriel was a UCF quarterback. He's transferred now to Oklahoma. He's going to start. More total yards per game, 323, than any other FBS quarterback over the last 3 seasons. 70 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. This is with UCF. He's coming back from a broken clavicle. They're unsure of themselves at running back. They're going to have to replace 4 of the 5 top receivers from last year. They have Marvin Mims, who had 14, most of any Big 12 player since 2020. Theo Weiss is pretty good wide receiver. They added Javian Hester from Missouri and Bunkley Shelton from ASU. They're middle of the pack defensively. They lose Nick Bonito, Isaiah Thomas. Yep, that one. And Perrion Winfrey. Under Brent Venables, though, Clemson had the number 1 scoring defense in the ACC 5 of the last 6 years. They're going to have to replace, like I said, Thomas, Bonito, and Winfrey, who had 20.5 sacks. I think it's smooth sailing. I'm looking at the schedule until they see Texas on October 8th in Dallas. Again, it gets a little tough at Iowa State, Baylor, OK State. They're going to go 9-3, right? I don't see 4 losses on this schedule. It's just a lot of VIG, minus 180. So I'll go over, Harry, and I think you're doing the same.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 is down this year. I do like the hire of Venables. I definitely like Levy of Ole Miss. They had a tremendous offense there with Corral at quarterback. Oklahoma has not lost more than 2 games since 2014. It's Dylan Gabriel. I saw a lot of his games at UCF. He was there for 2.5 years. He got hurt in the end of the middle of the season last year, but in 2.5 years at UCF, he had 70 touchdowns, over 8,000 yards passing. Running back Eric Ray's good. He returns. Wide receiver, you mentioned Marvin Sims, averaged 21.6 yards per reception last year. And they got a freshman in Javonte Barnes, who's supposed to be a tremendous running back, too, to help that team out. I'm going to go over 8.5 with you, too, Sal. I mean, I see if worse comes to worse at 9-3 and they get it done.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, yeah, again, the minus 180 is crazy. But, 9-3 should be, baddish case scenario for the Oklahoma Sooners this year. All right, Texas. Scott the Grizz Holmes, huge Texas fan. He'll play the replay of every Texas game in the office. There you go. He loves it. I don't know what he's thinking. Let me just go through my stuff here with Texas. They were 5-7 last year, 3-6 in conference. Their over/under is 8.5. They're 3-1 to win the conference. Over/under 8.5. 5-7 team. But let's look at it. They had a losing record in year 1 under Sarkisian. It's their first losing season in 5 years. 5 of their 7 losses were 1-score games. They were 2 of 5. They did not have a player selected in the NFL draft for the first time since 2014. That's astounding considering their recruiting class is number 1 in the conference and 5 in the whole country. And it's been like that for the last 5 years. First in Big 12, 5th in FBS. They secured Arch Manning for 2023. All right, so he's not going to start this year. The quarterback battle is between Quinn Ewers, who's an Ohio State transfer, the number 1 recruit in the 2021 class, and Hudson Card, who's the number 4 quarterback in 2020. Card, I think, was 1-1 before Casey Thompson took over last year. They have Bijan Robinson. He's fun to watch, running back, all Big 12, 142 scrimmage yards per game, 15 touchdowns in 10 games. Xavier Worthy, 12 touchdown receptions last year. They added in the transfer portal the Alabama receiver Hall and Nayor, who was all Mountain West at Wyoming. The defense, 99th in FBS. Oh, but I get it. Everyone's bad in the Big 12 defensively, but they lose a bunch of players, none to the draft, mind you. UT's top 5 signings in 2022 all came on defense. Looking at the schedule, they have Bama, Oklahoma State, Baylor. It's good, not great. They're always going to lose games they should win, right? Sarkisian bounces back from 3-6 to what? 5-4, 3-0 out of conference. I think 8-4. And then, it's nice, Scott. You play on December 30th versus BYU or something, right? I'm going under 8.5, 8-4. Bri, before we hear from Scott, let's hear you. I think you like under also.
Yeah, poor Scott. I love the under here. I'm wondering why it's so high. I get you mentioned the recruiting classes, and I get that it's consistently, the top of the conference, but Sarkisian is not a good coach, right? Look at their schedule, though. I mean, Bama will say it's an automatic loss. Sure, maybe they do start 4-1, but they're going to have to beat either Oklahoma, Baylor, or OK State to probably go over this number. And they can't get tripped up by Texas Tech, TCU, Kansas State. Now, don't forget last year, and I'm actually surprised. I know you can say first year, but I'm surprised Sarkisian still has a job, right? They lost 6 of their last 7.
Right.
They lost at home to Kansas, right? They lost at home to Kansas. I mean,
yes, I know that.
Sal, you
I
had that.
absolutely know that. I know. I got lucky the year before when they won that game. They shouldn't have.
Right.
But,
They
or
shouldn't
2
have won
years
the year before. Like how bad is that to go out and then, like you were saying too, with just players not being drafted, right? Like that is a direct, I mean, there's talent there. It
doesn't get worse.
That is on the coach. I'm surprised. I mean, obviously he's under the hot seat now, right? I mean, this season, but I actually felt like Texas takes this stuff so seriously. Maybe they felt like Sarkisian, that's maybe because he got Manning to come in next year. Maybe they figured they had to give him, they can't ruin that. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I thought Thompson was a pretty good quarterback, and then he really regressed last year. And I don't know if that was because of Sarkisian and that kid Ewers who they brought in. It's funny. I always wonder why these top kids come over to a school knowing at best you could probably only start this year if Manning is coming in next year. It's really, it's really weird. It's really weird. But anyway, I think
they transfer so much it doesn't even matter anymore. Transfer once, transfer twice, transfer 3 times in 4 years, whatever.
I mean, I think this is my favorite play. I just love the under here. Even if you're 8-4 is still a solid season for them, all things considered. But I don't see them getting to 9 wins.
All right, Scott, go ahead. Defend your coach first of all, because it really does seem like every lot is stacked against him, including no draftees. Wow.
I didn't know I had to defend anything. I think 8 wins sounds about right.
Well, listen, hold on. I know for a fact you bet on this team to win the Big 12. So go ahead. Don't golly us here. You like this team.
To win it all.
You bet them to win the whole thing. What's the matter with you?
Well, I think they can score 40 points a game. So anything can happen. I mean, last year, there was 3 or 4 games where we had double-digit leads on teams that were in the top 10, top 20, wherever. So I think they just need to learn how to have the back end catch up with the front end. But the back end's so bad. Some really big things are going to have to happen. But I don't think he's on the hot seat whatsoever, because I think Texas is loving seeing Arch come this way. They love seeing all the NIL. Here's the way we won our last one. Mac didn't write a single X and O on the board. He stacked the room with NFL players, and he let Vince run the show. So that's what I'm hoping for. And
Vince, are you talking about 20 years ago?
Yeah, I'm talking with Arch. A player-led team like that, and have the head coach just sit back.
Vince McMahon?
We've got huge trouble. You brought up Nayor, by the way. Nayor out for the season, and a lineman out for the season.
Right. Thank you for that.
So that really sucks for us.
All right. See, that helps. See, because then I get, you're stupid. You're not doing your homework. But I really just did that to set Scott up and make sure he's paying attention.
Well, truly, it changes everything, because the 2 of those receivers are the only 2, I think, double-digit TD receivers coming into the season. That Nayor, and that was going to be everything last year, you just watched them miss on the long ball over and over and over, and you're just like, crap, if we have that, it's over. And now they have it. So I don't know. I could see it going either way. I could see us losing to San Antonio the week after Alabama if we beat Bama. Guaranteed.
Oh, come on. Don't guarantee.
Guaranteed.
Don't guarantee.
That's my lock of the year. If we beat Alabama, we lose the next week to Jeff
UTSA?
San Antonio,
I think do they have a spread for that? I know they have notable games. Like a 16-point underdog there? Or
I don't know about that one yet, but
all right.
That Traylor's a great coach.
Well, good luck. I mean, Sarkisian's gone if he does this again, this 3-6 in the conference. I don't care.
Well, if he does that, if he loses to Kansas, you're supposed to get fired after Kansas.
Yeah, that's right.
That's just how it works.
That's exactly right. All right, let's go to Oklahoma State. 12-2 last year, 8-2 in the conference. Their over-under's 8.5 plus 550 to win the Big 12. Mike Gundy's Pokes, they finished inside the top 10 for the first time in a decade. And then Spaghetti, they beat your team in the Fiesta Bowl. They returned 7 starters, including Spencer Sanders, who accounted for the most yards in the Big 12 last year, over 3,500. But he also had the most interceptions. He had 12. There's no player in the country who had more turnovers than Sanders, 40 in 3 years. But then, like in that game, in that Fiesta Bowl, we had almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns with no picks against Notre Dame. It's so weird. Dominic Richardson's back, averaged over 5 yards a carry over the last 2 seasons. Brendan Presley, 50 receptions, 600 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. 137 in the Fiesta Bowl. The number 1 defense in the Big 12 in almost every category last year. I know they only have 4 returning starters. They lose Malcolm Rodriguez and Devin Harper. They got Derek Mason they hired as the defensive coordinator, replaces Jim Knowles, who's the new Ohio State DC. Look, I think they're going to be around in the end. The quarterback has to be a little less erratic, and I think he will be. They're at Baylor. They play Texas. They're at Oklahoma. I'm going over. And I think they beat Oklahoma. I'm burying the lead here. They beat them in the Big 12 championship game, going over 8.5. Parlay Kid, you like Mike Gundy's team as well?
Yeah, I like the over here. In fact, this might be my favorite one out of all the ones we've covered so far. I really like Oklahoma State over 8.5 here at -110. Like you mentioned with QB Spencer Sanders, this is his 4th year starting. And I do think that Gundy is waiting for him to take that next leap, though, right? He's been good, really good at times, poor at times. He's really waiting for him to be a more consistent quarterback. Maybe in this senior year, he's primed for that. So I do think he finally takes that next step. Their D, as you said, Sal, number 1 ranked in the conference, 9th in the country overall. They led the country with 4 sacks per game. That's a terrific stat, including freshman defensive end Colin Oliver, who finished with 10.5 sacks. So he's a stud. They open up with Central Michigan, ASU, Arkansas, Pine Bluff. That's 3 wins to start the season. And I think this conference I don't think it's great. I think they might be the best team here. I love the over 8.5. I love this one. I love it a lot.
Yeah, it's weird seeing a team play defense like that in the Big 12, all these spread offenses and everything, but they come to play. Again, only 4 returning from this year, but I like this new defensive coordinator. He was an Auburn DC, former Vanderbilt head coach is Derek Mason. All right, Baylor, 12-2 last year, 8-2 in the conference. They're over under 7.5. Why? Plus 550. You got Dave Aranda. He made that leap from 2 wins in 2020 to 12 wins in 21. They won the New Year's Six Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, for the first time since 1979. They win a New Year's Six Bowl. What do you do with a team who increased their win total by 10 and then lost a substantial chunk of their talent? Jerry Bohannon, quarterback. Abram Smith is gone. Treston Ebner. Tyquan Thornton is a pro. We know at wide receiver, they lost linebacker Terrell Bernard, Jalen Petrie. He got drafted. I think Blake Shapen now is going to call snaps. He's going to take snaps. Former 4-star recruit, 2-0 as a starter last year after Bohannon got hurt. Like I said, Abram Smith is gone. He broke Baylor's single-season rushing record, 1,600 yards. They have top three receivers from last year gone. Tyquan Thornton, 10 touchdowns. They recruited middle of the pack, 5th in the conference, 36th in the country. Defensively, 2nd best defense, so they're right behind Oklahoma State, but they lose Terrell Bernard. I mentioned Petrie. They led in takeaways and sacks. They have some guys back, some good ones. Defensive newcomer of the year, Siaki Ika. Jackson Players, a Tulsa transfer. Dylan Doyle had 90 tackles. At BYU, at Iowa State, Oklahoma State, that's early. Then at Oklahoma, they end November 26th at Texas. I think this is a sucker bet. A team that won 12 games only has to win 7.5 this year. You can bet under and you get 8 and you win. No, I'm going under. Bri, you like the over. You're getting big money there at -170. I'm going under 7.5.
Yeah, obviously 7.5 sounds a little fishy. It seems low, and that's why you obviously have to lay the -170. But I do like David Aranda a lot as a head coach. He's done an awesome job there in 2 seasons, right? Considering the mess that was left behind for what he's done in 2 years is kind of remarkable. But last year they played. I was probably going against them a lot, but they, and they probably screwed me too. But they closed the season out with a lot of big wins, right? Ole Miss, Oak State, Oklahoma. Even BYU, I think earlier in the year, but I know they're at BYU week 2, which is going to be really tough. And they're at Oklahoma and Iowa State, which could be tough games, but they get Oak State at home. When you look at the overall schedule in this conference, again, it's not really that crazy if they're a solid team. Now I know they need to replace a couple big pieces, like you were saying on offense. But Shapen actually, when he played last year, he was actually almost as good. Even though they're offensively, I know they were like top 3 in scoring or whatever it was in the conference, but it wasn't like offensively. If they were winning games like 20, 21-7, 21-10, because defensively they were so good, which we know is like so weird to have.
I think he had 17 straight completions in that Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
Right. against
Yeah,
Oak State.
solid. And the thing is, they get back pretty much their whole line is back, and their line should be offensive line should be really good. So like again, offensively they'll be able to replace, I think, some of the skill positions, and defensively, I feel like this is a type of coach that he'll be able to replace some of these guys that they've lost. So I think they're going to be I think they're going to be very good again, Baylor. I do think them and Oak State are probably the two toughest teams right now in that conference.
All right. So those are what did we just do 4 there? Was that 4 Big 12 teams or 5? We did 4. There's some middle of the pack teams: Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State supposed to win 6.5 games, Texas Tech 5.5, West Virginia 5.5, and then Kansas 2.5. That's as low as it gets for a Power 5 team right there. Let's go Big 12 championship. I'm going Oak State. I like Mike Gundy. You get plus 550. I like him as much as he hates candy corn. I think they beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. That's my pick. Parlay Kid, you're with me, right?
Yeah. Like I said, Sal, Oklahoma State's my favorite team here in this conference. I think their quarterback's primed to take the next step, which makes them that much better. I think they win this conference rather easily.
All right, Harry, Oklahoma. You say, I don't know who you think they're beating in the championship game, but you like them at plus 190. Favorite.
Yeah, I'm not buying the hype with the horn. Sorry, Scott. I've said it before on the show here that I think Sarkisian's a scumbag. He can't spell defense.
Whoa!
I know they got ex-TCU head coach Gary Patterson to be the defensive coordinator, but I don't know if Patterson fits the role as a coordinator. He's really taken a little bit of a step down considering he was at TCU for so long and did so many nice things there. I like Venables. I like Levy again on for the offensive coordinator. Dylan Gabriel again has put up some great numbers at UCF, and I'm not just buying. I got to see improvement. I got to see this Quinn Ewers actually get something done because Texas has not. You wouldn't think it, but Texas hasn't had a first-team quarterback.
I asked you to pick a winner. Why are you railing on Texas? Like
I'm burying Texas because everyone's on Texas.
There's other teams.
I'm going with Oklahoma, and I'm saying I'm stating why I'm not taking Texas. So it's more of a thing for going against Texas than taking Oklahoma. But like I said,
Oklahoma State's a good team. Baylor's a good team. It's not that if they beat Texas,
feels personal.
Well, Scott, somewhere in there, it started with an apology. He said, "I apologize, Scott." So do you accept his apology?
I guess I mean, I know Sarkisian has a terrible haircut, but that's no reason to call him a scumbag, Harry.
There's many reasons to call him a scumbag. Many.
All right.
Well, we'll be covering Washington in a second. That's another reason why he didn't do shit there either.
But I get you. All right. So there you go. All right. So who do we? Brian, you like Baylor? That plus 550 is a nice number.
I like Baylor. I like Baylor and Oklahoma State. I like those both at plus 550. I don't think with so many changes to Oklahoma, I feel like plus 190 is not great value. And like we said, we don't really like Texas at 3-1.
Yeah. All right. Let's do the Pac-12. All right. So you're all right, Scott, with Harry? I mean, you guys will work through this, right?
It's fine. It's just
Scott. I owe you a coffee, Scott.
Okay. We'll hash it out over that. Thank you for sure.
There you go. Let's do the Pac-12. USC plus 170, Utah plus 250, Oregon 3-1, UCLA 10-1, and then Washington 17-1. We'll start with USC. They were 4-8 and 3-6 in the conference. Their over/under is 9.5 plus 170 because Lincoln Riley's in town. They fired Clay Helton, who was 19-14 over 4 seasons. Lincoln Riley was hired November. Guys led his team to more points per game, 43.6 than any other head coach in Division I era, minimum 40 games. So 43.6. So there's a lot to be excited about with the offense. And also there's 3 ways to do this. As we've researched now, 25 teams, you could dominate recruiting, right? You can dominate the transfer portal, or you can kick everyone's ass with doing both, like teams like LSU and, believe it or not, Texas. USC 10th in the conference recruiting, which is weird, but Lincoln Riley really chose to focus on the transfer portal. He added the number 1 transfer class in the country, Caleb Williams, quarterback, Travis Dye, running back, Jordan Addison, wide receiver. They lose Keaton Slovis, Keontae Ingram, and Drake London. That's rough. But they finished 5th in points per game last year. That's not a Lincoln Riley team. I know they're going to score. They get Caleb Williams, the Oklahoma transfer, former 5-star recruit. Highest pass efficiency in the Big 12 last year, 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. They get Travis Dye, as I mentioned, the Oregon transfer at running back, had 18 touchdowns, almost 1,700 scrimmage yards last year. They got Austin Jones, the Stanford transfer, had 9 rushing touchdowns. Wide receiver, they got the Pitt transfer, Jordan Addison, Biletnikoff Award winner, I mentioned, 17 touchdowns last year receiving. Now they got Mario Williams, Oklahoma. I mean, it just on and on and on offensively from the transfer portal. Can he fix the defense, though? That's the question. Last year, they gave up 31.8 points per game. Again, transfer portal. They add Shane Lee, linebacker from Alabama, Arizona, a state linebacker, Gentry, Romello Height from Auburn. They loaded up. I'm looking at their schedule. There's a good chance they're 6-0 before they go at Utah. They end with UCLA and at Notre Dame. This team, I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking the Southern California Kool-Aid, but I think they're 10-2 or 11-1. It's a possibility, Spaghetti, that the Notre Dame game could be for a playoff spot. What do you think? Maybe just based on that? No? Or are you going to have a couple losses?
If Notre Dame can get into the playoffs by just beating USC, I'd love that, and I take those chances any day of the week. Because I think a team like Notre Dame is really the worst case scenario for SC. Notre Dame's going to be a team that has a great offensive line, is going to run the ball a ton, and has a mobile quarterback. I just don't think SC has the defense to stop that. I believe Jeff Schwartz had a great tweet about SC. He was like, they're going to have to win every game this year with 50-49 because they won't be able to stop anything. And I just think their trench play, offense, defense line's not that great. So I'm not a huge SC supporter this year. I think they'll have a few losses.
All right. There you go. I think they have 2 losses, and that's good enough to win on the over. I say 10-2 for Riley. Harry, what do you like?
Yeah, I like it over too, Sal. You covered it. Riley, Caleb Williams, who single-handedly won a few games by himself for Oklahoma and the Sooners last year. They also got Bryson Shaw, cornerback from Ohio State. He was the best corner for the Buckeyes last season. You mentioned 17 touchdowns for Addison. That was the most in the country. And, yeah, their schedule. Start off with Rice, and then they have Fresno. They don't have to play Oregon. Dye from Oregon is an absolute stud. So I'm going to go over too, Sal.
All right. Oregon, then. You spoke about Oregon. 10-4, 7-3 in the conference. Their over-under is 8.5. It's 3-1 for them to win the conference. Lots and lots of changes. They replaced Cristobal, who Brian and I lost a ton betting on. I mean, he just made dumb decisions, right? I mean, is that gonna change because he went back to his alma mater? I don't know. Whatever. Leading passer Anthony Brown's gone. Leading rusher Travis Dye is gone. Leading receiver Devin Williams gone. Kayvon Thibodeau, the number 5 overall draft pick, is gone. They hired Georgia defensive coordinator Dan Lanning when Cristobal left from Miami. Last year, they followed 9-1 start by losing 3 out of 4, and those losses came by 74 points. I mean, they get crushed by Utah. They were 0-2 against Utah by 28 points, 38. They just get murdered by that team. But they hit the portal hard. They got Bo Nix from Auburn. He's going to be taking snaps. Marquise Irving's a running back from Minnesota. Chase Cota from UCLA comes over. Bo Nix, say what you will, seems like a game manager type quarterback, former 5-star recruit, 21-13 at Auburn, 57 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, had an ankle surgery that ended 21 season. He was on his way to a good year, had 15 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Nix is with his former Auburn OC, Dillingham. Running backs, Byron Cardwell is a 4-star, 21 class leader, Pac-12 with 6.8 yards per carry. I mentioned Marquise Irving, the Minnesota transfer, almost 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. They got some wide receivers from the portal. The UCLA kid I mentioned, 7 return on defense. Brandon Dorless, first-team All Pac-12. Noah Sewell, first-team All Pac-12 with 114 tackles. They're replacing 4 starters in the secondary. No USC on the schedule, but they start versus Georgia as a monster dog. BYU, Washington, Utah, who they can never, ever beat. I'm not going to miss betting on Cristobal's Ducks, but I still think they're going under 8.5, probably 8-4, somewhere in that. Now, might be generous. What do you say, Brian?
Yeah, I like the under 8.5 of plus 105 too. Everything about this team is new. I kind of like their moves. I mean, Dan Lanning may be a very good coach. We just don't know. We've never seen it. And I think bringing in Bo Nix is definitely an upgrade to what they have, but it's hard for them out of the gate, right? I'm marking a loss against Georgia. I know last year they had that win against Ohio State, but I'm marking it a loss against Georgia. I mean, they're getting what 17 points
17,
in that game,
I think. Right? Yeah.
So that means you need to go 9-2 the rest of the way, right? For this to hit. You get BYU at home, but BYU could be really good, and they do get Utah and UCLA at home too, which is big for them. But we saw what Utah did against them last year. They pretty much have a lot of their team returning. And a team like Oregon could get tripped up on the road at Oregon State, right? It's not the same as Oregon State years ago, where Oregon State used to just get blown out by everybody. They're pretty solid in there as well. And that's the thing, though. I will say Oregon. The one good thing about them is they have had some of the best recruiting classes in the country. So the talent is there. They just have to replace a lot. Like all of their skilled positions, they pretty much have to replace. And, defensively, they were bad last year. And so I'm sure Lanny's going to improve. I'm sure they're going to improve defensively at some point in time. Might be later in the year. It might be next year. But I'm more confident on this team going 8-4 than I am 9-3.
We can't lose more money on Oregon than we did last couple of years with Cristobal, but it's impossible. So either way, we're coming out winners. All right, Utah 10-4, 9-1. They won this conference last year. 10-4, 9-1 in the conference. Over unders 8.5. The over is pricey though, -170, and you get plus 250 if they win the conference. Kyle Whittingham, 18 years with Utah. One is, like I said, won their first Pac-12 championship last season. They won the Pac-12 South in 3 of the last 4 years. And again, all over Oregon. They beat them by 76-17 margin last year. Top 3 scoring offense, very balanced. Number 2, top 3 scoring defense, number 3 in the Pac-12. They dominate both lines of scrimmage. Number 1 rushing offense, number 1 rushing defense. You know what? Parlay Kid, we talk about this. They really kind of are the most complete and dominant but boring team over the last 5 years, right? I mean, is that a good characterization?
I think it might be more than 5 years. I feel like they just, I think, you know what? They're a program team, right? The kids that go there seem to be like, 4-year kids. And I don't know, there's something about it because they still have like Utah still, to me, at least football wise, like the way you would think about basketball, like a mid-major in basketball.
Right.
Like I feel like that Utah in football has that feel though, like where they probably don't get like the top recruits from all over the place, but they just get a lot of solid kids, like a lot of high character kids that just love to play football. That's how I look at them.
They might not get the very best recruits, but they're number 4 in recruiting in the Pac-12. I think kids are starting to go to the school, right? I mean, good players want to go to Utah, and why not? They won the Big 12. So
they're always good. They're always good.
Their offense returns 9 starters. Cameron Rising's a quarterback, first team all Pac-12, went 9-2 as a starter, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers in the Rose Bowl versus Ohio State. They have Tavion Thomas, first team all Pac-12 running back, 21 rushing touchdowns. Tight ends are very solid. They're kind of like a Nebraska or a Wisconsin, a successful team playing out west, right? 1,100 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns between Kuthe and Kincaid. The wide receivers are solid. Like I said, 4th best recruiting class in the Pac-12. They lose Devin Lloyd defensively, Nefi Sewell, Monfonte Davis. That's big. But they have Pac-12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, Tafuna. They have Van Fillinger, led the Pac-12 freshman with 5.5 sacks. I'll tell you what, they beat Florida, and they're on their way to 6-0 before USC. And then they finish at Oregon, at Colorado. But I think it's only 3 losses, and I think they compete with USC and play in that championship game. And I am going over the total here. They're too disciplined if they stay healthy. I'm going to go 9-3. Really solid on both sides of the ball. Good, smart, under-the-radar coach, even though he's been there 18 years. Harry, what are you going with?
I'm going to take Washington over 7.5 at -120.
Oh, I'm sorry. I called on the wrong guy? Brian, right?
Leave that in there. No, that's fine.
Try my best to cover your ski.
That was covering me? We're about to talk about Washington?
You can tell
I'm about to pass out, guys.
You can tell Harry's battling.
He's sweating. You can see he's wiping his forehead.
You know what? I am sweating. You're right.
Maybe we should let him do Washington now.
All right, we'll let you do Washington. Brian, say a couple words and Harry go right into Washington.
No, I was gonna say I'm a big
all the Utah talk made him lightheaded. His wife wants him to go. Oh, don't take your shirt out, Jesus Christ. Now we have to be lightheaded. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
You guys have known this over the years. I'm a big Kyle Whittingham fan. He always seems to overachieve with this team. Last year I gave them out to be conference champions. They've won the South 3 of the last 4 seasons. And the thing was this when I gave it out last year, they started off bad, right, with Brewer, and it was like, oh my God. And then Brewer left the program, and then they brought in Cameron Rising, who ended up being fantastic for them. And then sure, they couldn't stop Ohio State, especially in that second half of that Rose Bowl, but they were winning. They were winning, 12 minutes left in that fourth quarter. They're a gritty team. They were a great rushing team. Tavion Thomas was really good for them, especially after our first few games. So, like you're saying, if they come out right away and they get a win at Florida, they're a 2-point favorite in that game. I think it's gonna, there's chance, there's chance this could be a college football playoff type of team. Get USC at home. At Oregon, it'll be interesting. I mean, they could technically be favorites pretty much almost every game, right? Because they'll be maybe a 3-point favorite at home against USC. Yeah. At Oregon, I would normally say an underdog, but the way they beat the shit out of them last year, I don't know. And then at UCLA, they'll be a small favorite. But those are 2 teams they dominated last year. So I'm surprised it's not 9 or maybe even 9.5, but I'm big on them again this year. So I would play the over.
All right. Let's get through this. That's okay. No, we got a couple more. All right, Harry, you're going to have to wait a little because it makes sense to hit UCLA next. I don't know. You want to do Washington? All right, we'll do Washington, then you can get up. All right. First of all, I don't even know why we're doing Washington other than that they were like 5th. Right? I mean, they don't really have a chance. They were 4-8 and 3-6. They're over under 7. What?
I got reasons. That's why.
All right. I was setting you up here. All right, go ahead. Tell us about Washington. They're 17-1 to win the conference.
I'm going to go over 7.5 at -125. A total revamping here, so it's kind of a tough call, but new head coach in Kyler DeBoer. He brought his own offensive coordinator, and not only one, but he's got 2 defensive coordinators. They came from Fresno with him, where he was 10-3 at Fresno last year. Before that, at NAIA schools, his record was 79-9. They opened the season with 4 straight home games on the 17th of September. They get Michigan State at home. I think they tripped them up. I think it's a big win. If you guys remember, a couple of years back, in the portal, they got Indiana quarterback Michael Penix Jr. That guy had 500 yards in the horseshoe against Ohio State in the game. So he's their quarterback. And they got 2 defenders back from injury that didn't play last year. And Zion Tupelo-Fatui, 2020 Pac-12 sacks leader. I'm taking Washington to go over 7.5. I think they get to 8. And I think this coach is going to do a lot for the Washington program, unlike what Steve Sarkisian did when he was at Washington.
Oh, my God. Scott, again, he hits you. A parting shot. Vomit is Harry.
What is going on?
All right. He did at USC. How do you ever get a job again? Give me a break. And then when he was at the Falcons, he goes to the Falcons, and their offense stinks. Matt Ryan's terrible when he goes to the Falcons.
When the Red Rock Casino fired you, people were saying what he did at Red Rock, he should never work in sports gambling again. But I took a shot. I took a chance on you.
Guess what?
Yeah.
I'd still love to know what I did because I don't know.
Oh,
well,
please.
Sarkisian's the same way. He's like, whatever. I had a couple drinks. What does it matter?
Right now, you look like some ice cream that fell off the cone.
Come on, guys. Come on. We don't need this. All right. I don't want to. Whatever. I think. I don't know what. I think this number is ridiculous. They're 4-8 and they're expected to win 8 games, and they play at Oregon, at UCLA. They play Michigan State. I'm not even sure they're better than teams like Washington State, Oregon State, and Arizona State. But Harry is. Sam Ewart. It's not necessarily Penix, right? It's him and Sam Ewart, who's the nephew of Brock Ewart. Going head to head. All right. So there you go. I'm going under. Harry's going over. Let's finish it out with UCLA. We're going backwards, Parlay Kid. 8-4, 6-3 in the conference. Over under 7.5. It's 10-1. Chip Kelly finally produced a winning season. It was 10-21 this first 3 seasons. They're going to have to replace 15 starters, though. 7 all Pac-12 selections. 7 returning starters are the second fewest in the Pac-12. Both coordinators gone. Justin Fry's Ohio State. Jerry Azanaro resigns. Big losses on offense. Britton Brown, Kyle Phillips, Chase Cota. I know Dorian Thompson-Robinson led the Pac-12 in total touchdowns. It doesn't make sense to me that he did. I mean, with all the backlash he gets. He had 30 and yards per attempt, 8.5. Zach Charbonnet was 21 all Pac-12 with 1137 rushing yards. He's back, 13 touchdowns. The top 3 wide receivers are gone. They did grab Jake Bobo, the Duke transfer from the portal. Most of the O-line is gone. Defensively, 2 starters. 9 of the 11 starters are gone. Bunch of all Pac-12 selections. I don't think this thing clicks again. I get it. They have the most experienced quarterback in the conference, but coordinators have left. Ton of starters have departed. Utah, at Oregon, USC, at Cal. They'll lose a dumb game in there. You know, they'll lose at ASU or something stupid there. I'm going under 8.5. It shouldn't be better than last year. This seems too easy. I mean, if you go over, you're saying they're going to be better than they were last year at overachieving 8-4, Parlay Kid. You're going under, right?
Sal, we're together on this one again. Like you said, 10-21. Chip Kelly in his first 3 years. Last year they won 8. They haven't gone over this number at any time in his career here. Really haven't been close, except for last year, where did they peak out last year with this group? They only have 7 returning starters, as you said. They lose 7 all Pac-12 selections. Yes, the quarterback running back combo is pretty good. But I don't know if they're 9 or 10 win good here, Sal. And those guys are nice players, but what do they have around them that's going to elevate them from having a better year than last year? I'm not sure if that's going to happen. They only returned 2 starters on a defense that ranked last in passing defense in the conference.
Yeah.
So boy, oh boy, they better had some good depth behind those starters last year, because even though they lost some good guys, their defense still was terrible last year. I don't see them getting over 8.5, Sal. Let's take the under. I think we got a winner here.
Yeah, I mean, a 9-3. You're asking for them to be a 9-3 team, right? The teams we didn't cover: Oregon State 6.5, Washington State 5.5, Arizona State 6, Cal 5.5, Stanford 4.5, and then Colorado and Arizona bringing up the rear at 3 wins each. Let's pick a champion. None of us taking big swings here. Brother Brian, you and I like Utah. Just a solid team, both sides of the ball. I mean, there's not a lot to hate. We like Whittingham. We like the starters coming back. We like Cameron Rising, and we like Utah. At plus 250 to be in the championship game. They've been there before. Guys are going there, like playing in Utah, and they're kind of becoming a powerhouse a little bit.
Yeah, I like this. I like them I like them better odds than USC, right? I don't trust Riley yet. Again, maybe he might get that program there in another year or two, but not yet. I think it's going to take a little bit of time from, like Eddie was even saying, defensively they could be terrible out of the gate. So I think Utah is just too well rounded. So I like the better odds for sure with them at plus 250.
There you go. All right, Harry, we'll let you speak and then we'll let you go. USC plus 170. You and Parlay Kid are on the same page there. I mean, that'll probably be the championship game, right?
Tons of offensive weapons now coming through the portal, and definitely Lincoln Riley is huge. I mean, the guy does win. He may not win playoff games, but he does win conference championships.
Yeah.
And this team, again, loaded. I'm taking the Trojans.
Yeah. All right. Parlay Kid, you're the same.
Yeah,
right?
same. I believe in Coach Riley. I think he's going here. I think USC is a team that's had the talent. It's sitting there anyway. And now, obviously, just killing it in the transfer portal. I think this team rounds into shape pretty quickly. And USC has enough to win this, underwhelming Pac-12.
Right.
They're going to be fun. They're going to score a lot. They're going to play at 12:30 Pacific time. Their games are going to end at 4:15. And that's what you're going to get out of USC. All right, Babyface, what do you make of a lot of this? I mean, Harry... look at him. Is that right? Didn't go through the wash.
I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. It's 108 out. What am I doing? Sweating my ass off.
It's the main event.
I need to trim my chest hair, Darren.
He's the
oh my God.
I think you could do
Breaking
it. Brother Bry is a master, becoming a master at these things. All right, listen, let's get the hell out of here.
weasel.
We're going to be back Friday. We're going to hit Notre Dame. Maybe we'll hit BYU, a couple of the independents. We're going to give our Heisman picks. We're going to give our national championship pick. We'll go baseball, Sharp Tank. And then next week, all 8 NFL divisions broken down like no one else does it. There's no turning back now, Parlay Kid. We're mid-August. We're in. There's nothing to do. We got to be in on football. College, we end it Friday, and then we pick up with the pros next week. That'll do it for another episode of Against All Odds. For Spaghetti, for Meatballs, for Babyface Joel Solomon, for Scott the Grizz Holmes, and the Degenerate Trifecta, I'm Sal saying so long and happy handicapping.